I wanted to look at an issue in my community, so I chose an issue I knew little about, but could see happening all around me: gentrification. What is gentrification, you might ask? By definition, gentrification is the process of renovating and improving a house or district so that it conforms to a middle-class taste. But what a lot of people don't know is that there are many other side effects not mentioned alongside all of the new businesses and luxury condos that are coming in. The initial thought was that gentrification would return some money back to the cities and neighborhoods it takes place in, which it does. But especially in DC, low-income communities have been negatively affected by gentrification, with its tenants having been left in poor conditions and/or displaced. Another dark side of gentrification is the fact that it doesn't promote inclusivity. By bringing in new development, people of lower income aren't able to integrate with people of higher income. Due to increased housing costs as well as the overall increase in the cost of living, people of different economic situations simply cannot live alongside one another. Brookland Manor and Congress Heights are prime examples of how gentrification leaves its low-income tenants in the poorest of conditions. With regards to both of the properties, their current developers, both Mid-City and Sanford Capital, have been letting the buildings get run down and haven't updated the property so that it is up to code, in hopes that the tenants will soon move out. Once the tenants move out, both developers have plans of selling the properties and then renovating them to become luxury housing. Of course, if these buildings are to be renovated and they do become luxury housing, the people living there currently will not be able to afford the new cost and rent, thus displacing them. Although these tenants are brave in trying to stand their ground and not give up their homes, they are met with some pretty harsh conditions that make it pretty tempting to move out. According to Congress Heights residents, they're having to deal with mold, vermin, broken refrigerators and toilets, living without heat and air conditioning, and even more horrible living conditions. Meanwhile, the tenants of Brookland Manor are dealing with an armed security unit on the outside of the property that harasses its residents. One incident showcasing the harassment by the security unit on Brookland Manor residents was on October 14th, when the armed security forcefully entered the apartment of Miss Ada Harris without a warrant and assaulted her guests. He was maced and handcuffed before being thrown on the ground and detained there. They said their reasoning for all of it was because the man they had assaulted, Mr. Robinson, had a barring notice against him. But upon looking at his ID, they realized he didn't.
Cuffs on him if y'all got the wrong man. Y'all got the wrong man, still got the cuffs on him, man. Come on, man.
Residents can receive other petty sanctions from armed security, which can ultimately lead to their eviction. Whether it's for being on the grass, sitting on the porch, convening without a cause, or even hanging holiday ornaments in your apartment. At a One DC event, I was also able to record a testimony coming from a current tenant in this ongoing housing crisis. This was her take on what's going on.
I see this. Some have been there 40, 50 years. They raised their children's children. Well, they want to come and tear down, rebuild, and take away from our large families. We had 535 units. We don't have that now. And they're taking our families and they're separating us. Now, they separated us because they wanted to bring the smaller size of the family, like a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom or efficiency.
In order to gentrify, more people of higher income need to come in, which is why developers want as many low-income tenants as possible to move out, so they can then sell the property and/or renovate it for a higher income clientele. Not only does this mean more redevelopment for the city, but it also means more profit for the developers. These developers will try to force the low-income citizens out of their homes using any means, even if it isn't the most legal, because they know the people by themselves do not have the money or power to fight back. Gentrification has made DC a more expensive place to live, making it more exclusive. With this graphic, we can see how drastic the segregation in DC really is with regards to income. The portions of the map that are blue are the wealthier areas, and the portions that are yellow are the poorer areas. In this map, the darker blue represents areas with a higher median family income. The darker yellow represents areas with a lower median family income. The income separation is so extreme that we can see an east-west split between the residents of higher and lower income. I found that like income inequality, the racial split is almost exactly the same. From 2000 to 2010, you can see how there was a shift in the racial composition of DC. By gentrification sprouting new development and taking over whole neighborhoods, it not only forced out people of a lower economic standing, but it also forced out a lot of minorities. So we know that gentrification has forced out people with a lower income, most of whom are minorities. But there's also evidence that suggests that the wealth gap in DC is actually widening. There are staggering articles, like this one: the healthy DC economy is leaving behind longtime black residents, new study finds, and even crazier facts that read, net worth of white households in DC region is 81 times that of black households. All of this evidence goes to show that gentrification separates and excludes a certain type of people, the lower class, most of whom are brown and black. All of these facts present the idea that black and brown people are still the ones suffering from this growing DC-wide epidemic of income inequality as well as racial segregation. Also, further conveying the idea that gentrification is actually kicking people out as it tries to make the city wealthier and less diverse. Two of the most gentrified neighborhoods in DC in the past 40 years have been Shaw and the Capitol Hill H Street neighborhoods. With the Shaw neighborhood, its median family income went from $61,000 in 1990 to $146,000 in 2015. Not to mention, its luxury housing and development skyrocketed. You can find luxury housing all over Shaw, but the problem with all of that development is poor people who once lived there can no longer afford it anymore. It's the same with H Street and the rest of the H Street corridor. There are a lot of new developments coming in that are expensive and are only meant for the younger, more affluent crowd. A lot of 1 to 2 bedroom condos ranging from $500,000 all the way up to $3 million. Because of all this luxury development, the residents of this part of H Street are becoming more and more homogenous, while the people who have lived here for 40 and 50 years are forced out of their homes because they can no longer afford the living costs. But these are just two of the neighborhoods in DC that are in the process of gentrification. Some other notable neighborhoods that have been gentrified are Petworth, Columbia Heights, Navy Yard, and Truxtun Circle. What are some solutions to all of these negative effects, you might ask? Well, more affordable housing, better zoning restrictions, and policies that will make it easier for people in a lower economic standing to own their own homes. Some things that the people can do to mitigate these negative effects are support our locally owned businesses, go out and protest the construction of luxury housing in at-risk neighborhoods, and as always, be vocal about what you're doing. I barely knew what gentrification was and how it affected my community until one of my friends told me about it and I decided to further research it. Be the one to spread awareness and help others join the cause. Thank you for watching my film. I will continue to question, fight, and be vocal, and I hope you will too. Peace.
Today's a good day, know it's finna be sweet. I'm listening to Dom on Kennedy Street, remembering the West Coast where the energy's sweet. I did my yoga this morning so my memories peak. But anyway, off-grid shit, nothing to tweak. The city's still filling up with those who dance off beat. More than 140 characters and all of them weak. They walk by low eye, act like they can't speak. They walk dogs, when I say that I don't mean they feet. That's cause they scared of their neighbors, them they don't wanna meet. But anyway, this third generation for me. My parents and my grandparents all from DC, so I feel like I notice things other folks can't see, and like I represent things other folks can't be. And I remember all black on the green line, and all the kids had jobs in the summertime. Say what you want about Barry, but he cared for the poor. And that ain't who these new fools working for. I tell them that ain't who these new fools working for. They trying to kick us all out and just build more stores. But anyway, I could go on forever about all of the bullshit. I'm